In his testimony, Bishop Angelos, His Grace Bishop Angelos, makes the point that religious minorities in general, Copts, Jews, Shiite, Sufi, and Baha'i, are suffering attacks in large part because of a breakdown in the law and order. You have pointed out that although the true test will be, there are changes being made in the Constitution, the true test will be as to how the Egyptian government interprets and implements the new document once passed by referendum. Is the Constitution really going to make a difference in reforming the abuse of these blasphemy laws? You also point out that there is a surge in religious defamation cases, particularly since January 2011, including in the 2 months after Morsi was removed from power. There's a 100% of the individuals who were accused and tried were found guilty. Maybe you could speak to what is causing this surge in blasphemy cases, and again, will the new Constitution mitigate that abuse?
Thank you, Chairman. These are really key questions, and that, we can always try to give a government a honeymoon period, if you will, as they reboot and try to course correct their democracy. But the bottom line is that there's a lot of evidence to show that while there's a rush to take to trial those who are arrested or brought to justice supposedly for blasphemy and restrictions on freedom of speech, those who commit acts of violence are not brought to justice. So certain phrases in the Constitution that we see, some of the articles I mentioned, are hopeful. There are some things that we should be concerned about, in that they have a limitation on freedom of speech discussing incitement to hate. It's not the standard that we agreed to even at 1618 that talked about a limitation on incitement to violence or imminent violence. That's not the standard they're using. So there's a large gaping hole there that can allow the current regime, the current government, to continue in a way that would not respect human rights and freedom of speech. And there's an opportunity now. I think as much as there was clear direction downward and backward during the Morsi regime, in which there was a loss of human rights. The Constitution was an Islamist document that was based in Sharia and other aspects that were not based in freedom. Now is an opportunity, and I think what we need in our recommendations that we're laying out is that our policy needs to be linked to religious freedom. What happened is you saw the violence that happened in August against the Coptic and Christian communities, and it took until October until there was actually a mention that we would limit funding and restrict some of the military funds. So there was no connection there. And then sometimes it was referred to criticism of the Brotherhood, and meanwhile, as many of the other members have stated, it's being interpreted by the world that we did nothing during the Brotherhood year, and now we're doing something once the Brotherhood have left and the people have made a statement. So unless we do things and link them to religious freedom, they're going to be misinterpreted. It doesn't mean we shouldn't continue to put pressure because of the limitations of the current Constitution and the fact that it has just been a piece of paper, and the only way to make it real is to hold them accountable with measurements every 90 days as we laid out, and then linking that to cases, the Hegazi case, the Asfour case, and other cases in which people have been put in jail. These human beings are depictive, as you'll hear from other testimony, of the reality on the ground, which is very different than the Constitution.
My time is just about out, but I would just note parenthetically that in the last Foreign Aid Appropriations Bill, Frank Wolf, Trent Franks, Kay Granger, and I, and others, got language into the Foreign Office Appropriations Bill linking, conditioning our aid on religious freedom. Sadly, it was waived by Secretary Clinton. Mr. Connolly.